Hi, I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation, and we're going to discuss today, my wife doesn't like my parenting skills. Hi, welcome back. I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation. The topic is my wife doesn't like my parenting skills. So I'm going to try and give you different ways of looking at this, okay? And then I'm going to get into what you can do about it. What's the bottom line? So let's begin with her perception versus your perception of children. Now, as a man, we do not have and cannot imagine the closeness to our children. Don't be offended, but we can't imagine the closeness to our children that our wives have. Because, and again, don't be offended. You know, some men say, oh, hey, you have no idea what you're talking about. I love my kids. I would jump in front of the car for my kids. I would kill for my kids. I would do anything for my kids. Yes, that's true. But we're coming from a place of a warrior, protecting our children, protecting our wife, protecting our family, our tribe. Because we have to keep in mind that even though we are human beings and way above animals, we still are driven to a large extent by psychophysiological drives. Psychophysiological. In other words, our psychology is driven by our physiology, by our bodies. And so a woman, because she's the one who carries this child from the time she's impregnated, her whole goal in life, driven by this psychophysiological force, is to bond, nurture, protect, and love the child. It goes way beyond thinking. So let me give you a great example of how that works. Your kid is crying. Your kid is, let's say, 3-4 years old. And you've had enough. And you say to the kid, come on, chill. Maybe you'll try to bribe that kid. Maybe you'll try to intimidate that kid. You'll have that kid in a position of be responsible for yourself. Stop crying. Or I'm going to give you something to cry about. But a woman naturally comes from a place of what's wrong. So I've literally seen this. I saw this traveling in the Southeast Asia recently, where a kid was wailing, and the father was there holding another kid. This kid must have been, I don't know, 3-4 years old. And the kid was wailing, and the father's holding this other kid and not even saying anything to the kid, because this kid was in its own space, just wailing and wailing and wailing. Finally, the father got up and walked away. I'm thinking, whoa, what's going on here? And then a minute later, the mother comes. Kid's still wailing. Kid notices the mother, still wailing. The mother doesn't say a word. She sits down by the kid, picks the kid up, holds the kid in her arms. The kid buries its head in her shoulder, chest. Mother never says a word. And the kid just quiets down, not even whimpering. That's the connection that as a father, you can't have it. You could try to mimic it, but it's not the same. That kid is as bonded to the mother as the mother is to the kid. It's a physical, instinctive, real, psychological, physical bond. Now, when she says to you, hey, why are you blah, blah, blah? I'm not going to get into all the things she might say to you. All you should say is, I think that in this case now, so-and-so, your kid's name, needs a little fatherly parenting. Now, don't just go there thinking, no, this is what the kid needs. I'm the father and it needs some male influence. Don't do that. Understand that kid needs both. Needs both. And you are not supposed to be less than your wife when it comes to parenting. But if she doesn't know that, if your wife doesn't know that, and she stops you, then just without making a big scene, just say, you might be right, but let's do this for now. Let me be a little stern and let's talk about it. And because the number one thing you want to do is you want to show your kid how to be a man, not to your kid, but to your wife, right? So one of the biggest mistakes that most men, like 90%, is they display their anger to their wife or in front of their wife without realizing what that is doing is it's undermining her trust in you. Let me give you a great example. Let's say you hire a bodyguard, okay? And you're walking down the street and your bodyguard pulls out his gun and says, you know that I can kill you right now, and puts the gun away. You're going to fire that MF. You can't have him talking to you that way. He was showing his power. You see, when you get angry, you're pulling out the gun. You're showing your power. Can't do that. Never. We're not taught that. Because we watch cowboy movies and we watch Sylvester Stallone movies and we think it's cool. Be macho. Be strong. Not in front of your wife. You're to protect your wife, not intimidate her. And she will be intimidated. And yeah, it's true that in our society, most women are kind of, they're used to that now, with that intensity, but not really. Because that same psychophysiological drive is affecting her. You need to check yourself at the door. You need to be aware of what's going on. You're not going to convince your wife that to do it this way is okay. Now, there is a workaround. I told you I'd give you, bottom lines. You don't have to discipline your children in front of your wife. You don't and you got to really be aware that there's a difference in how you discipline a boy and a girl. Sometimes you need to be strong with your daughter, but not really. Not really. Strong with your daughter doesn't mean, I'm going to rip your arms out and beat you with them. Being strong with your daughter is, look, you're not going to get that dress that you wanted. You have to be responsible. It's different. And you have to really work at understanding what works for your daughters and for your sons and for your wife. So this is a very complex topic, and probably the number one thing you should get out of this that I never even mentioned is that strengthening the relationship between you and your wife is the most important part of parenting. Right? Think about it. Now, I've got books, I've got courses. Go to the website. There's links below. You could ask a question for free of one of our marriage counselors trained by me, because our approach is very different. You can take a free course for men, so you start getting a sense of how different our approach is from other approaches. Or you could even sign up for one of the courses, which are very inexpensive, by the way. In any case, at any rate, I'm glad you stopped by. I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation as a service to you. If you like what you're hearing, you may want to subscribe so you can hear more. You could like the video if you want it to pop up in your feed more. You know, I have hundreds of videos, scores of articles, and you could even share it. So I'm Paul Friedman. Thank you for stopping by. God bless you, and take care.